Have you ever really wondered what the world looks like from, say, a foot off the ground, through a puppy's eyes? Well, today we're going to step right into the paws of one little dog to see his journey from a farm to a family and figure out what it really means to find a home. Just imagine it for a second, a world where everything is brand new, where smells tell entire stories and every person is a friendly giant. That's the world we're jumping into. We're going to follow a little pup named Gopi as he discovers what family is all about, what fear feels like, and what it really means to belong. So every story's got a beginning, right? For our little guy, life starts in a world of soft, white fur, a place that's all about the warmth of his mom and the tumble and play of all his brothers and sisters. Can you picture that? The very first time you open your eyes, you're just, as he puts it, surrounded by many balls of white fur. That was his very first memory. Life back on the farm was pretty simple, really, just wrestling with his brothers, sniffing around in the grass, and always having his mom right there. And then one day, a stranger shows up, a man. And as he's looking at this whole litter of puppies, you can just feel the weight of what he says next. But I can only adopt one. Just one choice that's about to send a single life down a totally new road. And this is where instinct just kind of takes over. You know, instead of being scared, our puppy feels this connection. He walks right up to the man's hand, gives it a sniff, and in that one little moment, he just knows he's safe. It felt familiar, almost like his mom. And that was it. That simple sentence sealed the deal. A gentle hand on his head, and his fate was decided. The only world he'd ever known was about to disappear, and a brand new, much bigger one was just getting started. Leaving everything behind has got to be terrifying, right? Especially when it's the only home you've ever had. But, well, every ending is also a new beginning, the start of a new chapter with a new home and a new name. So there's a sudden jolt, and he opens his eyes. He's in a brown basket, and the basket is in a car that's moving. All those familiar farm smells, gone, replaced by something totally new and strange. And the worst part, his mother was nowhere in sight. The world suddenly felt huge and incredibly lonely. So the car finally stops at this place that is definitely not a farm. It's a house, and two new women come out. They called them Ajji and Tachi Ajji. But the man, Ajja, he seemed afraid of a tiny little puppy. How weird is that? And then you hear the reason, and it's just heartbreaking. His fear had nothing to do with this puppy. It was a painful memory from way back when he was a little kid. Of course, our little guy couldn't understand any of that. He just saw a person who could be a friend. But there was this invisible wall of fear he'd have to figure out how to get through. Okay, so then the mood totally shifts to something way more important. What are we gonna call him? A massive debate kicks off. Should he be a duke? Maybe a Raja? How about Muffin? I mean, the suggestions were just flying, as everyone had an opinion on his new identity. While they're all arguing, he decides to have a little fun and hides under a chair. So after this frantic search, they finally find him. And right there, in that moment of discovery, he finds his name too. Gopi. It was perfect. Short, sweet, and it was his. All right, so he's not just some random puppy anymore. He's Gopi. And with a new name comes a whole new sense of adventure. It was officially time to explore this weird new world and maybe get into a little bit of trouble along the way. So what are the best toys for a puppy? Forget the squeaky balls. No. The best toys, apparently, were hanging in the garden. The clothes on the line were swaying in the breeze, and Gopi discovered it was just the most fun thing ever to chase them, jump up, and pull them all down to the grass. So when Ajji finds all her clean clothes scattered on the lawn, Gopi probably thought, oh boy, I'm in for it now. But instead of yelling, she just smiled and patted his head. What a relief, right? He realized this new place wasn't just a house. It was a home, where being a little bit naughty was actually okay. But, life in a new home isn't all fun and games. Gopi was about to find out that some new experiences can be loud, confusing, and, honestly, pretty scary. So Ajji takes him for another car ride, but this time they end up in this strange, super clean room full of other dogs. But these dogs weren't playing. They were whining and whimpering, and some of the sounds they were making, they sounded like they were in pain. Gopi's heart just started hammering in his chest. And then a man in a white coat shows up. Gopi's munching on a biscuit, having a decent time, and then all of a sudden, bam, a sharp, painful prick on his bum. It was a total shock. He wanted to run, he wanted to bite, but he was held down. This was his first, and definitely not his favorite, meeting with the vet. Okay, so back in the safety of his garden, Gopi had one last really important lesson he needed to learn. A lesson about what it actually means to be part of a family. And here we see some classic puppy behavior. The garden was Gopi's space, his territory. So when a little bird dares to swoop down and start eating from a plate of grains Ajji left out, his inner guard dog just kicks in. He barks, he warns her off, but this little bird was having none of it. Well, Ajji saw the whole thing and came over, but she didn't scold him. Instead, she gently explained that the little bird was a mom and she was just trying to feed her babies. She taught him this really simple but deep lesson. Sharing is caring, and being in a family means you care for everyone, even the tiniest little bird. And in that moment, something just clicked for Gopi. It wasn't just about having a roof over his head anymore. It was about love and patience and sharing his world. So when Ajji mentioned she was going to the office the next day, Gopi literally jumped for joy. He wanted to go too. He wanted to be with her, with his family. He finally truly felt like he belonged. You know, Gopi's journey from this little ball of white fur on a farm to a much-loved member of a family, it really shows us that a home isn't just a place, it's a feeling. It's built out of all these little moments of understanding and patience and learning to share your heart and your garden. It's just a great reminder of how a little bit of kindness can change an entire world.